Hello ladies and gentlemen, Captain Shaq here, and welcome back to Awakening of the Rebellion. Today we're taking a look at the latest update and what it means for the mod, and why I'm so excited that this one's out. So let's get into what's changed. If you've never played Awakening of the Rebellion, it's a fantastic mod for Empire or Forces of Corruption that basically gives the game a whole bunch more depth, a bunch of new units, the way the game plays. It completely reworks ground combat into being probably the best ground combat that we have seen so far in Empire War, and that's saying something because the base game's ground combat has always been kind of not very good. But let's talk about the most recent update as of this past weekend. Bug fixes mostly in patch 2.8.1, patch number 3. There's also a little super sneaky patch they put in. About, what, 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago as of making this video. First thing they did was, well, they added Leia to the New Republic Galactic Conquest. So if you're playing through that campaign, and if you're unaware, there are quite a few different campaigns. The one that we're going to be playing, by the way, for the Empire, is going to be the Empire versus Rebels with no Black Sun in it, so we can focus on more of a classic Galactic Civil War the upcoming season. But that's the new update for that. Leia's there, she's got her abilities, so she has her over-shield, very inspired by Battlefront 2, the EA version, which I actually quite like. Makes her more squad support, kind of feels like a leader now in the field. You want her at the front of combat to suck up some of that damage, and she gets her entourage of fleet officers that are around her, or fleet security. They fixed the hero Lambda from being untargetable in space. Now they are very targetable and easy to kill, as you can see from this Imperial hero who's gone a little too deep. They've optimized a bunch, including retreat plans for ground units. There used to be a lag spike towards the end of battles. This should have been fixed. There's also reduced stuttering for certain AI plans. So basically the AI, when they figure out where they're going to be pathfinding, what they're going to be doing, they won't be lagging out as bad. They made the AI update only 20% of the units that have already given or have orders in space and ground combat to reduce the combat lag significantly if you've been running into issues with that. Though I've found the game's been running pretty well. I know others have had issues on lower end PCs. They fixed some of the space units' kiting behavior. AI will now take fast. The AI will now actually take their faster units that have been damaged and retreat them to the back line. The larger units, they're probably not going to get away anyways, but at least some of those Corvettes will probably be able to escape now. They fixed the double executor bug on Endor, which I guess it was spawning 2 ships. I hadn't run into that one. They have set bounds to the tactical camera. You could zoom out as far as you wanted to on the tactical camera on most of the maps, and now they've defined that box, that area where the camera can move. This will reduce some of the crashes during land combat. So maps that should be affected by this are Onderon, Essian, and Jabim. They removed an issue with having double veers on Endor, which, I mean, more veers is always best veers, and he's actually gotten a bit of a nerf, which we're going to talk about with the balance changes. Suppression for all squad-based weapons has been bumped up to 5 seconds. This is in ground combat when you've got those squads that can suppress enemy units. Now, it'll last a little bit longer, have longer of an effect. Reduce the Endor mission spawn timer. They've lowered, and this is interesting, the AT-AT's health on both variants, so the Elite and the normal version, down to 1400 for the normal version, the standard version, and then down to 1500 for the Elite, and Veers is down to 1700. Why did they do this? Well, I talked with some of the devs, and basically the AT-AT was stomping everything it ran into. It was a very powerful unit. The Elite version specifically was able to counter just about everything in the game. It was able to do a little bit of everything really, really well. And so they have decreased the Elite AT-AT's primary and secondary gun accuracy against infantry and air units. And the AT-AT version 1 is actually more about breaking through lines. If you want to know like where this is supposed to sit in combat, it's meant to be a unit that you use to break through the enemy line, right? And I'm going to do a video on balance and combat and kind of the design philosophy of Awakening of the Rebellion and how the weapon systems actually function. But it actually has anti-infantry weapons. It's got splash damage weapons, so it's there to punch through, and it's got lots of health, but it shouldn't be able to do everything. It should be a little bit weaker against surprisingly super heavy armored units, because it's got those splash weapons that are meant to shatter and explode and do damage in an area, not pierce through heavy armor. So the AT-AT should be a little bit more in line with that philosophy, at least the AT-AT version 1. The Elite version, a little bit different. That's going to be your bunker buster. But we'll talk more about balance and units and how the weapons work if you're unaware in another video. This is just an update video and talking about where the mod is going and why I'm so excited. They've increased the T-16 super shot damage and accuracy against vehicles. T-16, I believe, is the air units or the Black Sun. I haven't actually played with that one, but I have fought against them. So that's going to be their ground-based air unit, and it looks like they've upped the damage on it. They've added Ion Grenade Infantry to more anti-vehicle squads, so you get Disruptor Mercs, Alliance, Army, Rocketeers. Ion weapons are great against nerfing the damage output and destabilizing enemy armor as they approach. Lambda speeds have been increased, thankfully, because they were kind of a crawl in the Galactic Civil War. They buffed disruptor damage against super heavy armored vehicles. That's mostly going to be for Black Sun units, as disruptors are illegal in the Empire and in the Rebel Alliance. They've increased the super heavy armor protection against light weapons, meaning that your super heavy units should not be dying as quickly to light vehicles and infantry weapons. So those are the big updates. Really, the big rebalance, unless you've been having crashing issues, the big thing that's going to affect you guys as you play is that you may find the AT-AT can no longer just one-shot everything and be its own unit, where you can just spam about 3 of these things and walk across the map. They're still really effective. I've been playing with them all weekend, kind of getting refamiliarized with the Empire as a faction in this version of the mod, and they still play really well, but I find battle lines seem to be the key to victory with the Empire. Having a balanced line and using your units effectively against targets they're good at, using that anti-armor to pierce through these super heavies, using your frag grenades and your grenade launchers on your ATSTs to make sure you're suppressing and taking out those infantry, and having a battle line of stormtroopers really seems to help. The support from the Imperial Army kind of backing them up. That seems to be the kind of like the lines that you want in the game, right, for the Empire. And that's great because it fits with the Imperial doctrine. Being aggressive and having a forward line and pushing hard and having something that can spearhead that push, which would be the AT-AT, but it shouldn't be able to do it on its own without support. And it feels like it's in that spot now. It's in that space instead of being a little bit, well, pretty damn OP. And they can be your army if you built like 4 or 5 of them. Just use them and only them. So it doesn't feel that way anymore. But why am I excited that this patch is out? Well, this is going to be the last major update until we get the space rebalance update, which is basically going to change the game completely, much like the ground combat did with Commence Ground Assault, which was their last big update. So right now it seems like all hands are on deck and they are focused on working on space combat. And from what I understand, from what I've talked to with the devs, they're focused on they're actually using their ground combat, which I find awesome, as a base concept for how they're going to do space. And I guess they've been all like re-energized by the fact that Squadrons come out, and they're using a little bit of that as inspiration for how they're balancing. Right now they're working on fighters, and you can check that out over on their Discord, and you can check that out over on the devs YouTube channel. They've got some shots on like how they're balancing it out, starting out with X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and going from there, which is quite cool. If they can get that down and then build from there, those 2 base units, which are kind of like Star Wars in a nutshell, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, throw a couple of Y-Wings in there, TIE Interceptors now and TIE Bombers, as they build up that balance. But it seems like Squadrons will no longer be very fast one-and-dones, they die too easy, and they're going to be more of like a front line, kind of like how infantry play out on the ground. You're going to have these wings that'll engage and hold a line, and then if you can break through it, then your bombers can kind of run amok. And then having that balance with the capital ships, which would be really interesting to see. But coming soon is a video on how weapon systems work, and then we're going to do a few videos talking about, well, some of the spots on where, as a community, we think some of the units should fit. First question I'm going to drop with you guys, and this is where the video is going to go with the first one, the Arquintance, right? Where does it fit in the Imperial fleet? What is its role in that fleet? I've been rolling this around trying to figure out exactly where should that be. It's overgunned for its size, but it's also like 1/3 engines. And that's a scary balance in an RTS. That might be a little OP. Too fast, too kitey, too overpowered. Where does it fit? What should its role be? Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and maybe I'll roll some of those into that upcoming video if we've got some really good ideas in there. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more sci-fi modding and gaming goodness, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.